the Nazgul fun time. Oh, good. All right. So, hi guys. Hi Matthew Stewart. How are you? Also, the Nazgul theme. Yes, that's not even the best of the Nazgul theme, right? That's like the second or third best one. I have a whole playlist for the Mordor and Nazgul's theme track. I use it when I drive back from school. It's like the perfect length. I also used to use it for like cardio purposes. Also, Jared, you asked a question that I thought was pretty interesting. I'm sure this has been asked before, but why don't we hear much of the Valerians in the current Song of Ice and Fire story? So, Jared, I want to preference this right away before I answer the question. Do you know what happens in the dance? Because I don't want to just like say it if you don't want to be spoiled. So first, Jared, let me know if you know what happens in the dance, so you're not going to get spoiled for House of the Dragon, or do you care about spoilers? And then I'll go further and I'll elaborate on that. So you don't. Okay, Jared, do you want to know? Because the answer to that ties into the actual dance. So to answer the question, I have to somewhat spoil some stuff for House of the Dragon. So let me know if you care about that. Will you watch and make content for Rings Season 2? If I do, Matthew, it won't be on this channel. It'll be on my second channel. But I probably will, at least in terms of like live streams. I don't know if unless it's like let me put it this way. Unless it's like an improvement, I won't actually make videos covering like questions or theories of the series. But I might do like live streams of it, just like we did last time. But it won't be on this channel. Hi, Kenshin. How are you? Hi, Maz. Well, thank you for joining for a little bit, and I hope work goes okay. Hi, Random Stuff. Hi, Dakota. How are you? I don't have time to read with my job currently, so go ahead. Okay, so for anyone that doesn't care about House of the Dragon spoilers, we're going to go there. But if you do care, you might want to come back like a minute or two. So, the reason the Valerians are not really in the main story is because they really fade from being a major house. Because, like, in House of the Dragon time period, they are probably the second most powerful house, maybe the third. You can maybe argue with, like, the High Towers. And so, the problem is, with the dance, they get a ton of losses in terms of, you know, some stuff ends up happening at Driftmark, and they kind of get fucked up there, and they lose a ton of their navy in the Battle of the Gullet. So by the time the war actually ends, the Valerians are in a really, really bad position. And also another part of it happens where the laws kind of change in terms of how the Valerians were able to get so much of their wealth, where they were constantly being the master of ships, so they were able to gain all of this money kind of coming into King's Landing in terms of raising taxes and all that stuff, and that stuff's going to change as we go forward. So it's a mix of a lot of different reasons, because by the time we get to the main story, the Valerians are not a very prominent house, right? They're, you know, going with Stannis, because again, of course, the Valerians are going to go with Dragonstone. But even then, they don't have much power, right? They don't have a lot of wealth. They don't have a lot of ships. They are completely down to just some, you know, other random minor house. And so that's kind of the story of the Valerians. If you want a better answer, Jared, I do have a video up. I would just like look up like on my channel Valerians. I actually talk about that exact question that you ask, but that's my quick answer, is that as time goes on, they lose their grasp of power. And also, right, the dragons by the end of House of the Dragon are not going to be a thing anymore, right? Well, for a little while anyway. And so you also don't have the dragons, right? That was the other thing that helped Valerians gain power, was they were getting dragons through Rhaenys, Laenor, Laena, you know, and so forth. I want to get into a big spoiler for probably the final season of House of the Dragon, if that's okay. Yeah, if you want to get into one, let me know. This is not a House of the Dragon, you know, themed episode or stream, so I'm not as wary about, you know, people getting spoiled or stuff like that, because, you know, it's a Q&A for Song of Ice and Fire Winds of Winter, so it's like I try my best to, like, you know, give people, you know, a little warning before I talk about stuff, but, you know. Hi, Larissa, how are you? Also, I did really like your theory that you sent me on Instagram. That was really good. I'm glad you resent it to me, because I really did like that theory. Who would you rather have as your king? Robert Baratheon or King Daemon? I think Daemon would be way better than Robert. I think Daemon would actually want to be king in terms of, like, he would actually try and rule. He might not be the best, because, again, he's not, you know, the most intellectually smart or anything like that, but he seemed like somebody that actually would care about his people. So I think Daemon wouldn't be a bad king at all. I think he would be a good king. I don't know how good, right? Because we don't see too much of him actually ruling. We see him a lot of the time being, you know, a great warrior. So it's kind of hard in terms to judge if he would have been a good king, but I think he would have been pretty solid. Did Robert go after them? No. So Robert has, like, the Velaryons, it's nothing to do with in terms of like somebody goes against them. It's just after the dance, they're so limited in power because of how many ships they lose, how much their riches they lose in terms of the Triarchy. When they get involved during the dance, they end up really screwing over Corlys. So it's just a multitude of things. It's them losing power in terms of the Master of Ships role that they don't really seem to have a lot of, like, after this point. It's just a multitude of things, right? It's a lot of things going into it, why they lose so much power. I know, Dakota, I know. Do you worry about, okay, so this is a spoiler just for anyone that doesn't want to get spoiled. Do you worry about how they'll handle the battle over the God's Eye, especially with how they've kind of fumbled the big moments in the show so far? I worry they will make it far less epic. Matthew, unfortunately, yes, I do worry about that, right? I thought I wouldn't be worrying about this stuff in season 2. I thought we were going to get to that point now where we were getting better writing and those big moments wouldn't happen and they wouldn't fall flat as much as they have. And so, unfortunately, I don't really trust them for the big moments, right? I think if you look at me and ask, oh, how do you think they're going to do small moments, building up to these moments and all that stuff, I think they're going to do an excellent job, but so far they still have not really, in terms of how I view the show, they have not gained my trust for big moments because they fumbled more than they have succeeded in a lot of the big moments that I was looking forward to. Is Jon Arryn an underrated hand or possibly overrated? He did let Robert bankrupt the realm. I think he's a pretty overrated hand in terms of, you know, he gives Littlefinger all this power, lets Littlefinger abuse his position, and maybe he didn't know about all those things, but that's all the more so, like, Jon Arryn was not able to really corral Robert, and so part of that is like, okay, Robert was just a bad king, and so how can Jon Arryn prevent Robert from doing all those things? I don't know, right? I think the way that Ned views Jon Arryn, for instance, I don't think Jon Arryn was that great of a hand of the king. Think about how long it really took him to figure out that Robert's children weren't his, right? I think Jon Arryn, to me, is not the best hand in the world. I think he would be better under a different king, or like if, let's say Robert, or let's say, like, for instance, it was like a Tommen situation. I think Jon Arryn would be a better hand of the king, but I don't know. Yes, Jared, that is more or less. They just kind of faded into obscurity, right? They kind of were at the tip of their power, and then they kind of lose it. It's just like the Targaryens, right? The Targaryens are at the tip of their power under Viserys and Jaehaerys, and then after the war, well, you have so many casualties. The family line is, there's not very many Targaryens left. There's really no dragons left. So you get to this point where, you know, the Targaryens, the Velaryons, they take huge, huge losses. I can see them changing stuff like Daeron's demise for the better, though. Funnily, I do think so, right? Corlys made them great. Losing him and getting their castle sacked beggared their house. Exactly. Like, and that's not to say that they instantly just became irrelevant, right? Like Alan, like, he does a really good job after the war. Like, he's a very good kind of lord for the Velaryons, but after him, right, they really fade. So it's kind of like it's kind of like just a downwards. It's not directly like you're here and then you're down here. It's like you're here when Viserys is reigning, and then you just kind of slowly go down until you get to the main story. Battle above God's Eye is going to be bad either way. I hope not, Ander. I hope not. See, Ander, I personally love the way that whole sequence goes, but I don't know. It's each to their own. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at now, like with House of the Dragon, because I've just become so frustrated. I've become so frustrated, and like it's very frustrating because I for the people that are in the Discord, I dropped a YouTube short that I made. It's not on YouTube yet. I'm gonna probably put it up either tonight or tomorrow. But I made it responding to a comment, and it was somebody that was like, "Oh yeah, you don't make reviews for the episodes, and you just came out of here because the episode was bad, making this video or whatever." And I'm just sitting here like, What are you talking about? But it's just like, I want the show to be good, but I'm not gonna sit here and lie to myself. I'm not gonna lie to you guys and go, yeah, this episode's perfect. It's not, right? I wish I could come on streams and go, yes, House of the Dragon is perfect, right? There's nothing wrong with it, but that's not the case, right? I don't know. Which Dario actor did you like more? I like season 3, but the other one was cool. I personally really liked the Dario of the season 3. He just was more mysterious, right? I liked the way that the character felt. It felt like there was more to this character of Dario, and his performance really gave you that. And so when we get to the Dario of season 4, he kind of loses that. He just becomes like this basic white guy that just is kind of horny for Daenerys. He just becomes more or less like a fuckboy, is what he becomes. I'm a big defender that I wish we would have kept the Dario from season 3. I find him way more compelling than the Dario that came after. Not to say he did a bad job, because I think it's more the direction that D&D took the character. But I do wish we would have gotten something a little bit different. I feel like the age of great television is gone. I don't know. I mean, this is the thing. I still think House of the Dragon... I know me and you have disagreements on this, Andrew, but I personally think House of the Dragon is still good. I think that the show is still above average. I think it's better than average television. It's just, as a viewer, someone who really likes the story of the dance, for it to not live up to what it could be, and it's just very simple things they're doing wrong. It's not, it's not like all these episodes are horrible, like Rings of Power, where I'm just sitting here, just fucking around. It's just, I don't know. It's just, they're that close, but they keep screwing themselves up. Like, they do all this hard work. And then they throw it away. It's just very frustrating. Second Dario feels way too Westerosi. Agreed. Thank you, Larissa. Thank you. Why has he got to be white, Eric? He doesn't got to be white. I'm just saying, he just feels like a basic white dude. That's what he feels like. He feels like he's just like, he doesn't... Like, you can't have a Dario in season 3 that's very mysterious and has a certain tone to the character, and then the next season completely change the character and he feels nothing alike. It's like the whole idea of like Darth Maul in Phantom Menace and then Darth Maul in the Clone Wars show, right? It still feels different, but it still feels like the same character. So, I don't know. What's your favorite episode? I like season 3, episode 4, and now his watches. I personally will always say that my favorite episode is The Reigns of Castamere. Is it objectively the best episode? I don't know. I'd probably say the Battle of the Blackwater is the best, but I don't know. I think for me personally, I love the Red Wedding. It's just that moment to me that feels like the entire show was built up to. I think, in my opinion, it's the climax of Game of Thrones, because it's the moment that then everything else is affected by it, right? So everything in King's Landing is directly affected by the Red Wedding. It's the thing that was built up for the whole show. But yeah. Dakota, are you hitting on Larissa? Is that what's going on in chat right now? Season 4 had a lot of filler. That's one thing I noticed, Ander, is like on my my rewatch, as I was going through it, I just kind of remembered like how many scenes that I look back and I'm like, this kind of like gets a little like put under the rug because of how good the Tyrion plotline is. But there's some stuff in season 4 that's like, there is like little cracks there. You see the bad writing coming. There's just little moments. And it's weird because season 4 in some plot lines is way ahead of where the book is. And there's other plot lines that are like way behind. Right? Like John's plot line. Like he isn't made Lord Commander until like the second or third episode of season 5. It's very weird. Fish, you tell him. Hit the like button. House of the Dragon is a pretty good show. Give us the Rogue Prince from the books and stop with the needless changes. I agree, Kenshin. Now, I think we are going to be getting a better version of Daemon. I really like what they did with the character in episode 3. And I think, based upon what I've seen other people that have watched the episodes, they really like where Daemon's going in episode 4. So I hope that we're going in a good direction with Daemon. I really would just like them this talks about adaptation. If you're going to change something, right, from the source material, or you're taking a certain route from the source material that, you're doing, you need to make sure it makes sense, right? I was currently watching Fellowship of the Ring. You kind of see it. We're just at Rivendell. There's a lot of changes in the movie versus the book, but almost everything that changes in the movie is for a reason that logically makes sense and makes the movie more like visually able to comprehend, right? Because a book and a movie are just two vastly different things, so you have to change stuff here and then. And so I think House of the Dragon, just sometimes they make changes that I understand why they're trying to do it, but they just don't get there correctly. It's like No Way Home. I always talk, this is always my example for this. Spider-Man No Way Home is a movie where they built it backwards. They had an end goal in mind of where they wanted to be. They wanted all the Spider-Men to come back and the old Spider-Man villains. They didn't know how to get there. And so the first third of the movie doesn't make any sense. And so for me as a viewer, now the rest of the movie doesn't work, right? So I don't know. How do you see young Griff taking King's Landing? Well, Joey, I think it's going to be quite easy for him, right? I think it could be something very, very similar to the sack of King's Landing with Tywin, which would be ironic given Cersei's going to be in power. You got to remember with the stuff with King's Landing, everybody is turned against Cersei, right? Kevin Lannister's dead. There's chaos at King's Landing. I think it's very likely that young Griff is going to be viewed as a hero, coming to liberate this city from this evil dictator of Cersei, and the gates might even be wide open for young Griff. There's a lot of ways that I think that we don't even see a battle when we get to King's Landing. It's just young Griff parading through the streets because people just like him. And you got to remember, the Lannister army is also in the Riverlands. They are not, protecting King's Landing at this moment. So there's not a lot to prevent young Griff from taking the city. The gold cloaks could easily be bought by Varys and switched over to young Griff's side. I find it that I don't really think there's going to be this big battle for King's Landing. Could Cersei, do some wildfire type stuff? Maybe make it a little bit more difficult for young Griff, cause some chaos? Definitely possible. But I don't think it's going to be like this great siege like the Battle of the Blackwater was. I think it's going to be more of, kind of young Griff enters the city, and that's just kind of how it goes. What was Rob's biggest mistake? Okay. Rob's biggest mistake, this is a tough one, right? Because Rob makes a couple bad mistakes. One is, marrying Jane Westerling. One is, like you kind of put, killing Lord Karstark. The Edmure screw up, sending Theon to the Iron Islands. I think, personally, out of the ones that I kind of mentioned, I think the Edmure screw-up one is the biggest one. Because if you think about it, if he had told Edmure what he should do correctly, if he told him the plan, I think it's likely the war goes way differently, because Tywin would not have been able to get back to the capital in time to relieve it, which means that, again, King's Landing falls, Cersei's dead, Tyrion's dead, eventually Joffrey's dead, Tommen's probably going to be found and killed as well. I think that is probably the biggest one. I guess you could also point to marrying Jane, but it's also, I think, a situation where the phrase could have turned on him regardless, based off of his losing kind of position that was going on. Killing Lord Karstark is a big one because it loses him troops, but I think it's out of all of the options here. That was the biggest one. Like the Jaime getting freed one, that isn't Rob. It's not on Rob. That's on Catelyn, right? That's completely on Catelyn. So I don't blame that on Catelyn. If we were talking about all the bad things that went wrong in Rob's campaign, it is Jaime getting freed. Because if Rob has Jaime, Tywin would never do anything like the Red Wedding or try to plan that. They had the space to fit in some of the Feast for Crows, Dance with Dragons arcs that occur earlier. I agree. Like, they could have spent time, Ander, doing the Greyjoy stuff, right? I think that was the perfect time. Instead of sending, Asha all the way, to the Dreadfort, why didn't we start getting some of the Kingsmoot stuff building up in that season, which we know was happening during, before then and during that time? So, I don't know. House of the Dragon barely adapts anything from the book. I mean, to a degree, I get you as well, because a lot of the characters don't, necessarily feel like they did in the book. And so you have some of the big events, but a lot of the events of how we get to those big events are different in the show. So I will, I do loosely agree with that. Question: what location would you like to see explored in the books? For me, Highgarden or Starfall. That's an interesting question. I think Casterly Rock is a good one. Ashai would be really cool to go to. I think you put up some good ones. Highgarden and Starfall is a good one. I'm trying to think of some other ones that'd be cool to go to. It'd be pretty cool to go to the Last Hearth. That'd be cool. And then maybe going like really far north of the wall, right? Where the White Walkers or the others come from. That'd be cool as well. Yeah, Andrew, I agree, right? I think there's people that try to say that House of the Dragon is the canon of the universe, and that's not true. I've disproved this multiple times, Andrew, but like think about for instance, like Alicent, right? A simple thing as, okay, the history books tell us Alicent was much older, and then the show does it that she's much younger to Rhaenyra's age. And I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I think they actually handled it pretty well in this the first season. I think it made it more interesting with their dynamic. But at the same time, that's not canon, right? Because the book material that George R. R. Martin wrote specifically says this. Hi, Zeno. How are you? Is Cersei's death in the book going to be different than... I definitely think so, Joey. So, for one, I think it's interesting because when is Cersei going to die? This is the thing that I have the most indecisiveness about her death and her stuff in Winds of Winter. Because will we see it from the hands of, like, during the sack of King's Landing, or I guess Young Griff just appearing in King's Landing? Will she be imprisoned? Will she be killed by someone else before Young Griff can get there? Will she escape to Casterly Rock, which kind of seems like maybe a good option? I think it's 50-50 at this point. Will she be kind of just around, and maybe she's killed later on by Jaime or Arya? I don't know. I think that's a really good question. I just don't think it'll be by bricks. I will say that. If Stannis wins the throne, what will his plan be for Dany? If Tywin survived, what would his plan be for Dany? What will be younger? So, okay, this is an interesting one. So, Stannis, to me, will not take the throne. I just don't think that makes sense at this point of the story. Given that you already have Young Griff, you have Daenerys going for the throne, I think Stannis is kind of doomed into the north. But if, say, he survives and Dany comes over, I mean, what would his plan be, right? You know, he's going to be outnumbered. Daenerys has dragons. Stannis would try to kind of go with somewhat of a similar idea of like Criston Cole, right? You know, moving only in forests at night, those things to try and stay out of, you know, Daenerys' dragons and all that. But I don't know, like, there's no way he would win. I mean, Tywin is kind of in the same boat, right? It's like, what would Tywin do? Probably try and assassinate Daenerys. I mean, that's, I think, a likely option. But what else are you going to do, right? You're going to have scorpions. You're going to try to enlist the Dornish to help you because they're the only ones that can actually beat the dragons, it seems like. Again, all these situations where somebody's trying to fight Daenerys without a dragon, it's just not a good situation. And the same thing goes for Young Griff, right? He, I think, first will try peace because, you know, he is believed to be Rhaegar's son. They're related. So he's going to try, I would assume, to make a marriage alliance or an alliance just in general. And I just don't think that's going to end up working out. What twist do you think could happen in Winds? Something that the fan base hasn't predicted. Ooh, that's an interesting one. What twist do you think could happen in Winds? The thing is, it's hard just to like say ones that haven't been predicted. I could go with what the video I did, Andrew. I don't know if you watched my video on Stannis. I think there's a situation because the problem is that George has basically confirmed Stannis is going to burn Shireen. And my thought process is always with this channel when I made Stannis videos is that, okay, he said that she's going to burn, and he didn't say Stannis. But I went back, he actually did say Stannis. So how does that occur then, right? Like, how does Stannis, meet up with Selyse, you know, Shireen, and Mel? How does that end up happening? Is it because he takes Winterfell and then they come to Winterfell? Is it because he somehow ends up back on the wall after taking Winterfell, or maybe he has to retreat? What happens that we get to that point where Stannis burns Shireen? And so the prediction could be likely that, okay, Melisandre either tricks Stannis into doing it, you sacrificing somebody else, but, you know, having Shireen actually be the person they're burning. Could it be that Stannis gets desperate enough and actually burns her. I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting things that could go on with like Shireen's death because there's just a lot of question marks right now. Maybe you have Blackfire and Dark Sister clash. That definitely could happen. Definitely could happen. Given that I think Bran will eventually recover Dark Sister, being with Bloodraven. Maybe he gives that to Mira, and then maybe Mira, gives that to Jon. Who knows? But yeah, I think it'd be really cool for those two to meet. I don't actually think that they would get into a fight. Unless it's like some situation where Jon is allied with Daenerys, which is possible, and then for some reason Jon's the one that has to kill Aegon because he's the actual son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, and he actually is a child of Rhaegar, and Aegon's a Blackfire. It'd be interesting. Rob's biggest mistake was being a Stark. Second biggest is screwing over House Frey. That's fair. Hi, Casper. How are you? How would you have redone Season 5? So, I've done a video or two on that exact topic. I did a rewrite of Season 5 and Season 6. But here's what needed to happen, right? They tried to rush it, right? And I actually have a Season 5 video going out, like, just on a rewatch and what things they did right and wrong. The problem with Season 5 is they really got the big plots down pretty well. So Cersei, Jon, Daenerys, Tyrion, for the most part, are pretty good in the book, or in the show, not the book. Outside of like the Young Griff stuff, not being there, that's unfortunate. But I would have probably found the middle points of Feast for Crows and Dance, and I would have just tried to follow the story for the most part, right? I think there's things that you would have cut. I think one of the best things D&D did is they cut down Tyrion's time with Jorah and being a slave. It's by far the least interesting part of Dance. So I would have said you cut that. You also can combine the stuff with Daenerys, right? There's things that you can combine that makes it flow better. So I would have tried to like cut down on some of the Daenerys stuff and kind of quickened up Tyrion. Or, again, I would have done it with Young Griff. I would have had the first, Season 5 being around the entire Young Griff arc with Tyrion. But, it's really hard to talk about how I would have redone Season 5 because you have a lot of different things that you needed to do, right? Because you have the Ironborn stuff. That plot needed to happen in this season. I would have had the Kingsmoot actually have been like your episode 9, your big moment, because it's the best moment of Feast for Crows. I would argue that the Kingsmoot is probably my favorite or the best chapter of not only Dance, but also Feast. So that would be probably my climax of Season 5. And then Season 6, your big climaxes would be like Jon's death, Daenerys riding her dragon, just the normal stuff that's kind of at the end of Dance with Dragons and kind of Feast and all that. Do you think Daemon will have a relationship with Alice Rivers in the show? I've heard rumors, but the book said he was immune to her powers. It's possible he could. Based upon the Daemon of the show, I would probably lean towards he does. And that could be interesting, right? Could Alice Rivers be some sort of situation where, with the issue of it looks like there's going to be no Nettles, right? Could Alice Rivers kind of fill that love interest thing where maybe she's playing Daemon and Aemond against each other? That could be something that could work later on in the show. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I do think, though, the way they've built Daemon, that he may at least have some sort of relationship with her. Whether that goes on for a long time or not is kind of left up in the air. Hi, Walter. How are you? Do you think Rickon survives the story? If not, do you think he survives wins? Walter, I'm very torn about Rickon because I think he will at least survive the opening parts of Winds of Winter. I do think he lives because I think, to me, where he's in at this spot right now, I don't think he's going to be capturing anything, and Davos is going to get him back. I just don't think he's going to be a fit Targaryen to rule or anything like that, so that's why he's not going to become like a lord or anything. I do think Rickon does live, though. If I had to guess, I would say he lives for now. Maybe he dies in Scream of Spring. Random stuff. My quick answer to that would be, let's go with no. I'm going to say no. How do you see Jon Snow book plot being different from the show? Well, it's going to be completely different, Joey. So when Jon comes back in Season 6, he is a character that is the same. Like, he's experienced death, and he's almost completely unchanged by it. the Jon we are going to get in the story, and that's another part of it. Jon is just way different in the book versus the show, where the show, he's a bit more like stoic, more like one note, whereas the Jon from the book is a little bit more witty. He's a little bit more clever. But he also has these moments where he doesn't, explain, or he doesn't talk about things that he's trying to do. It's one of the reasons he gets killed. But I think Jon is going to come back a little bit more animalistic. He's going to come back angry, not like Lady Stoneheart way, but he's someone that we're going to see his deep connection and that magical connection with Ghost that we didn't see in the main story. So, or I guess the main story of Game of Thrones. And so I think we will see very much a changed Jon. And also, I don't think Jon is going to be the person that's going to take down the Boltons. I think he's going to be, again, his plot's going to be focused more on the others, right? Getting everybody ready for that and dealing with what he's seen from death, whether it's nothing, whether it's something, and what is his purpose? Why was he brought back to life, right? That's going to be a key question for Jon. What is his purpose? That's going to be something I really think will be a big focus for Jon. How do you think Euron will die? His whole thing seems to be about gods and higher powers, and if they truly hold any power. I'd like to see him get smited somehow. Also, High Fizzle as well. I think it's going to be a combination of things. I think it could be Bran and Euron kind of have like a psychic war, which I think would be really cool, but also involving Daenerys and her dragons. I think they will be key as well to taking down Euron. I could also see a situation where Bran maybe wargs one of Daenerys' dragons and has a battle with Euron and his Krakens. I think that'd be really cool. I didn't like how the show had Loras get arrested so easily by the Faith. He could have easily killed them in the books. Well, Joey, it's one of these things where I actually don't mind that in the show. But so in season 5, it's, I think, Loras having this blind, what's the word I'm looking for? Confidence. He's a blind confidence that nobody can touch him. And so when he gets rolled up by like 20 dudes, and he just gave his sword to his, I think it was his squire in the scene, he gets captured. I actually think that works, right? It's him being brought down. He's overwhelmed. And even, I know some people have a lot of issues with why he gets imprisoned even further after that, right? When they're having the trial with Loras, and they bring out the male prostitute, or the guy that works for Littlefinger, and he's like, yeah, he has this birthmark. The way I kind of interpret that scene is it's just something to provide any type of loose evidence to get Loras in prison. I found that trial is a complete and utter show. The High Sparrow was going to imprison him no matter what. They just needed some loose connection to get Loras in custody. They have the power here, right? Tommen is the key. If Tommen doesn't lash out and doesn't say, oh, Kingsguard, kill them, which very likely he won't, then he's fine. And so I feel like that whole trial was just a show. It was a show to try to drag Marjorie into it as well, and the High Sparrow played it perfectly. So personally, I don't have a lot of issues with season 5 on that account. I've kind of as I rewatched it, and I kind of paused and I really took in that moment and thought about other things. I'm a little bit more accepting of it than I was maybe in the past. I think it could have been done better. Don't get me wrong, but I think it was definitely okay. I think it was fine the way they did it. Of all the A Song of Ice and Fire YouTubers, who do you tend to agree with on most things? Preston Jacobs thinks that Catelyn is Rob's heir. I don't agree. Preston thinks Dany is the... So, yeah, I personally don't agree with Preston Jacobs, even though I respect his content and stuff like that. I really don't even agree with Red Team Review as much anymore. I would have said a long time ago, probably Red Team Review, but I think I've had a lot of more differing takes. I've even made a couple of videos that are like direct responses to some of the takes he's had, because I found them interesting topics. I would say the YouTuber that I personally agree with the most, I'm not gonna say a cop-out answer. A cop-out answer would be Voice of Old Town, because we do a lot of collabs and we agree almost all the time on a lot of the different stuff we talk about. But I will say, I think In Deep Geek, he's someone that really heavily influenced the way I did this channel when I started, and his, I think, takes are always really well done. The way he thinks about things, the way he breaks things down. I do think that In Deep Geek would be the person that I personally agree with on most things. Tyrion is not a Targaryen, Andrew. I agree. I just don't like that theory. To me, it kind of takes away from that dynamic between Tywin and Tyrion, and it adds another secret Targaryen where there doesn't need to be one. Hi, Ghost. How are you? Jon will have 2 Valyrian steel swords and no skill to use them. I mean, that's another part of it, right? Jon is not as skilled in the book as he is in the show. Yes, you are now House Martell, Ghost. You are now House Martell. Why did Nymeria reject Arya when she came back to the North? Well, I think it's supposed to kind of reflect Arya as a character, right? Arya, you know, she's this character who was never wanting to be this lady, and she wanted to be something more, you know, an assassin or a knight or whatever. And the same applies to a direwolf. A direwolf is not a pet. You know, Nymeria was a pet for how long, and now it's a wild animal, right? Yes, you may still have some connection with it, and it won't attack or anything, but it's still a wolf. It's a direwolf. It's an animal. It's not a pet. And so that, to me, is kind of what that symbolized. I like both versions of the hard home attack. I feel the full confrontation in the, or I like the full confrontation in the show, but also love the horrific foreboding mystery in the book. Yeah, I think it works well in both. I think for the show, it works better, right? Because I think there's some of that stuff with Jon that they didn't have a way of setting up, because characters like Bo and Marsh in the show are not developed at all, and that's mainly because of the earlier season, not season 5. You didn't have a lot of these other characters, and for instance, you didn't need to show things like Jon going down and looking at their food supply, or Jon having to make a deal so they had more gold to get through the winter, right? I don't think that stuff is necessarily important for the show. And I think showing Hardhome, really giving us a face for the others, because this is really the first time, not the first time we see the Night King, but it's the first time we've seen the Night King really in action. And so I think that works way better for the show, but I think for the book, it works great as well. So I think in both ways they work, and I really appreciate the way both of them are done. You think Daddy George actually finished the last 2 books already and is just writing it out to stay relevant and kind of trolling us, and almost finished the next Dunk and Egg? I don't think so, John. To me, it wouldn't actually make sense, right? If he was just going to stay relevant, just release Winds of Winter and then sit on Dream of Spring, right? You wouldn't need to kind of ride this thing. And here's the other part, right? If he doesn't release them by the time he's dead, he's never going to realize, you know, how good his work was. He's not going to see the fruits of his labor. So I don't really think that makes that much sense, but I kind of understand where you're coming from. I can forgive them for cutting Lady Stoneheart, but cutting Aegon and Jon Con was unforgivable. Unforgivable. But think about what the repercussions of those actions were, right? Because they cut Lady Stoneheart, they didn't know what to do with Brienne and Jaime, right? That's huge. Also, then you had a problem was who is going to take out the Freys? So you had to kind of teleport Arya around Westeros. So it's, again, you cut minor things and it has massive repercussions, because now if you cut something George put in there, you've got to figure out how do you get these main characters into a similar situation where they're still entertaining, but you still keep the actual building of those characters. And that was completely destroyed in season 5 because of Lady Stoneheart not being there. Young Griff not being there really hurts some of the other moments where we have a lot of filler. There's not a lot of stuff going on. Those, 2 things really were important, and they were just abandoned for some reason. Rickon is Azor Ahai? Exactly, Dakota. It's interesting that you name a Stark being Azor Ahai. I can't find that. A little sus. Do you think we will get a concrete answer about her child? Here's the thing. I don't know, because I feel like House of the Dragon doesn't kind of leave a lot of those things up to mystery, outside of a very few couple things like Laenor, for instance. I think we'll get a concrete answer in the show, because I don't think the show likes to give us a lot of, like, let's just leave this unanswered, right? They like to kind of tell us. So I would assume we're probably going to get an answer. Could you see a chapter where we get a meeting of Lady Stoneheart and Jon? So, Malter, I think the only way we're going to see those 2 characters meet is going to be through, like, a dream state. I could see a situation where Jon has some sort of dream or trance of Lady Stoneheart and her things going on, similar to, like, Bran, for instance. But I don't think we're going to see the 2. I just don't feel like Lady Stoneheart needs to be a character after, like, the Revenge Red Wedding or the Red Wedding 2.0, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I don't know what we would see there, right? And Lady Stoneheart doesn't like Jon, but if Jon is named Rob's heir, like I believe he is, I could see a situation where maybe Arya isn't the person to kill Lady Lady Stoneheart, and she lives long enough to give Jon Robb's crown, and that's kind of the ending of her character, as she asks her maybe to die because her mission is complete and all this stuff. I could see something like that. I just don't see it happening. I think Lady Stoneheart will die during the Revenge Red Wedding and all that stuff by Arya. I just started my second reread of Song of Ice and Fire. Haven't read it fully since middle school. So far, halfway through a Game of Thrones, a lot of stuff I didn't comprehend when I was in... Yeah, of course, right? Ghost, as you've gotten older, right, you've been able to comprehend deeper themes. And there's a lot of stuff in there. I am just like that. One of my things I really enjoyed, because now, like, my reread for me of a Game of Thrones has been done for like a week and a half. I had that really pre-prepared, which is coming out tomorrow. I'll have the last chapter of Game of Thrones up tomorrow. But it's something that, like, as you reflect on it, and, you know, for me personally, it's more than just reading it, right? Because you're reading through it. I'm reading it, and then I'm going through it, taking detailed notes, recording it, listening to everything. So, like, I take in a lot of that stuff, and even stuff that I don't say in the videos because I kind of think of them as I'm, like, editing. It's like you have a certain appreciation for it once you go so much in depth. That's why I really like Dany in that book. She was a character that I don't think I understood completely when I was younger, and as I've, you know, gone to this reread, I really appreciated her. I agree, Larissa, on kind of Jon being more with Ghost. Also, hi, Ashley. How are you? Also, don't tell Dakota, but we have a secret list of names. All I'm going to say, Ashley, of treasonous people. Just don't tell them. What other time period of Westeros would you want a show about? I like a show about the Age of Heroes, Bolton's flank Starks on screen, because that would be a cool, interesting one if we had like a Bolton and Stark Civil War type situation or rebellion. That would be cool if we saw that. I've always said I want to see Maegor and Aenys. I want to see Aegon's Conquest. I want to see the first Blackfire Rebellion, Dunk and Egg. If we want to do like a Blood Raven anthology, that would be really cool. The War of the Nine Penny Kings would be great. I don't know. There's a lot of cool things you could do. Thoughts on Howland Reed being the High Sparrow? I just find it really weird that Howland Reed, like, would be the High Sparrow, not really helping the Starks. Like, yes, he is destabilizing the crown, but that doesn't help the Starks in any real manner at this point because they're not in control of the North at all. And so Howland Reed could be helping them way more if he's, like, for instance, harboring the people that know the knowledge of Robb's will. Like, I think that's more important. I just don't think he's the High Sparrow, because then the other part of it is like, okay, Howland Reed is supposed to, we would assume, reveal what happens at the Tower of Joy and what happened during Robert's Rebellion. If he's in King's Landing, how's he going to be able to do that with Jon and the North stuff? So, I don't know. I do agree. That would be really cool if we saw some of Jon having white hair. That'd be really cool. Grease said Stannis would never be king. Well, it's true, right? He's not. I love Stannis. He's my favorite character in the books. He's not going to become king. This doesn't make any sense to me. Agreed, Matthew, on Robert. He is one of the coolest guys. Even when I was like I'm still very a small channel, but like even when I was even a smaller channel, he actually like, you know, reached out to me and stuff because I was doing a reaction or I was thinking about doing a reaction to one of his videos. Very nice guy. Very nice guy. I think Tywin's decision not to marry after Joanna is interesting. What do you think may have happened if he had married someone of importance during the War of the Five Kings, say like Sansa or Marjorie? I think it would have made a lot of sense, right? And I've kind of talked about this. If you even think about like Tyrion's role, right? When we get to this point of the War of the Five Kings where Jaime's imprisoned, Tywin basically thinks that Tyrion is all he has left outside of, you know, Cersei, but she can't inherit Casterly Rock. So at that point, I find it very interesting that Tywin himself wasn't trying to make a marriage alliance for himself, right? Because you think he doesn't want Tyrion to take Casterly Rock. Well, who else is there to give it to? Is he going to give it to Kevin? Is he going to give it to Myrcella? Tommen? Who's he giving it to? And so I think it would have made a lot of sense. I personally, if I was Tywin, I would, if it wouldn't have been possible for, like, for instance, Marjorie to marry Joffrey, I think that would have been a good match for Tywin to have married Marjorie. Who else could have been married to him? I don't know. That's a great question, though. Greece obviously agrees with the Order of the Green Hand. They're an N plus. Yes, of course, Dakota. Let's not talk about how many N+A people I very much upset when I did my theory. They are very passionate people, and I get it. I am also very passionate about R+L, but they did not like me. They did not like me. Greece forecast for Darkstar. Darkstar is going to kill Arya Hoda. He's gonna join forces with one of the Sand Snakes. He's going to be a pain in the ass for Doran because he knows all this information of what actually was transpiring with Arianne and them trying to crown Myrcella, which could create massive issues for Arianne with young Griff and John Con. He possibly could start like a own Dornish rebellion, whether that's trying to take over, whether that's trying to take down the High Towers. And then also the last thing he will do is he will come to see Ashley, sweep her off her feet because she's in love with him. Thank you. Order of the Green Hands right about everything. Jack, I agree. I wish they posted more. Even though I don't agree with a lot of their stuff, I wish they posted more. I like that. I know apparently somebody told me, I don't remember who told me exactly, that they got divorced or they broke up or something, which was very sad. It's very sad to hear. We should react to more of Order of the Green Hand. The Mance's Arthur Dane makes a... Jack, I actually was thinking about reacting to that theory, but it wasn't from Order of the Green Hand. It was going to be somebody like saying why that doesn't make sense. I was thinking about doing that, but I don't know. Like reaction stuff is so weird to me because it was so polarizing every time I did it. Like some series that I did without reactions did really well. And others were like, it did okay. And then, like, as time went on, they maybe did better. Like, for instance, I did my favorite reaction is always going to be, I did one with, I don't remember who it was. But they talked about Dunk not actually being knighted or whatever. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really cool theory video. I enjoyed that. Just didn't do very well. But, yeah. Go Shaggy and Summer made quick work of some tough warriors. So yeah, Nymeria and Lady would have been for sure been some major threats in King's Landing. It is true. Matthew, why are you saying sex spot? Was there a sex spot that I didn't even see because it was too far down? What happened, Matthew? Okay, so there actually was a sex spot in chat. That's actually insane. All right, well, good job. You guys saw before I even got to that part of chat, so big ups to you guys. What do you see Littlefinger and Sansa's plot being in the book? So it's going to be mainly about the Harry the Heir situation, right? Because I think that more or less what Littlefinger says, part of that is going to be a focus of it, but it's going to be, there's going to be a twist in there, right? I think Littlefinger will either have Harry the Heir killed or something along that will happen because it doesn't make sense for Littlefinger to give away his biggest chip. Just like in the show, right? With like Ramsay and Sansa, with giving her to Sansa. Wait, giving her to Ramsay, yeah. It doesn't make sense for Littlefinger to give away his power piece in Sansa just like that. I just don't think it works. I don't know. Ashley, don't worry. You're always the GOAT. I think, Ashley, you should make an alliance with the Larissa. Damn. How do you think Sansa will fare in Winds of Winter? Her actions around Littlefinger are pretty integral because I think he lets his guard down around her a bit. I think that by the end of Winds of Winter, I think Sansa will either turn on him or it'll be like the beginning of a dance or a Dream of Spring. Because the issue here is we can't have a character like Littlefinger later on in the story, right? Our villains need to start dying off because we have this whole threat of the others. And we maybe will have like one last like big bad like in the show, like whether it's Cersei, whether it's Young Griff, whatever it is, right? A lot of our villains got to start dying, right? Like, so Roose and Ramsay. The North has to be united for us to have any chance of beating the others. So they have to die soon, just logically based off what things are happening. And I think it makes sense given Sansa's arc. You know, at some point, Sansa has to become the master. You know, Star Wars rule of two. Eventually, the apprentice overtakes the master, or the master beats the apprentice, gets a new apprentice. Sansa eventually, that's where his arc has been leading to, is she's going to find out information, whether it's from Lady Stoneheart. Maybe she gives that to Arya. Maybe Arya helps Sansa figure all this stuff out. Because Again, Catelyn knows that Littlefinger lied to her about the dagger and all these things. That's talked about in the last like conversation that she has with Jaime. So there are definitely like all these different people that can say what Littlefinger did, right? There's gonna be people that know what Littlefinger did in King's Landing, holding a knife to Ned's throat and all these things. So eventually, all this information is going to kind of catch up to Littlefinger. It's the same with Roose Bolton, right? With stuff like Duskendale. All this information is eventually going to catch up to these people, and that's when it's going to flip. Hey, I've always said I have no hate towards Rickon. Fair enough, Dakota. I was just testing you a little. Where's Jon at the end of Winds? King of the North and Winterfell, already heading south. I think that by the ends of Winds of Winter, I think Jon could be like around the Moat Cailin, the neck area, and Stannis is trying to hold the North. Because I think that it makes sense that the North is going to get overtaken. Like, think about how long we'd have to stall the story with the White Walkers and the others for it to make sense. Like, Daenerys, at best, is going to be on Dragonstone by the end of Winds of Winter. I just think that by that point, there has to be at least some skirmishing going on in the north with the others. I think that's where Stannis dies. Whereas Tyreek, Tyreek, that's his actual name, Jacob. I don't know why I tried to pronounce it a different way. But he is in Varys' basement. Yeah, that's basically it. And then he's going to be revealed by Varys at a certain point. The Targaryens weren't even there for the first long night. They didn't get to Westeros until 300 years ago. A Stark is definitely Azor Ahai. I like that idea, Jack. I like it. You know, a mix of fire and ice. I'm just saying, Jon Snow. I'm just. If need be, I shall forge a strategic alliance of my own with our filthy friend Aegon to protect his Grace Matthew's crown. Ashley, I like that. I like that. I get your point. Again, Littlefinger's this massive player, but at some point he has to have his demise. Like, same as Varys, right? I think Varys is gonna not have his demise in this book, but Dream of Spring, for me, likely is where he's gonna have his death. Oh my god, Ashley is selling herself to get an alliance. This is insane. What is going on? Ashley could take over my channel any day. I've seen her videos. She can take over my channel. That's fine. She probably make better content. she switches it up. When we finally run out of content to do, I'm just gonna give Ashley the username and password to the channel and be like, all right, go ham. You're the Goblin Queen now. Good luck. But yeah. Oh my god, that was lightning like right outside my house. That was wait. Actually thunder, or was that a firework? Nah, I'm on edge, dude. I'm on edge. Something like happened like right outside my window, I swear. Does Jon keep the surname Snow or switch to Stark / Targaryen? I think he keeps Snow. I have noticed you've been trying to promote me a lot since Grease bestowed your wrench on Larissa says so. Oh god. Everything's falling apart. Everything's falling apart. I might have to like balance it out. Ghost, I might have to make you a mod and balance it out. I don't want to see a Nymeria Conquest of Dorne. Just not that. Agreed. Agreed, Ghost. I'm not that interested in it either. I'm gonna song with some Fire fan. I have banners on my wall, and I don't care about the Nymeria stuff. So that should tell you. I feel like the casuals wouldn't give a shit either. But excuse my language, of course. Do you think D&D kind of ruined Rob in the show when they made the Rob and Talisa plot a romance? I don't think so. I've always said I think it works in the show. I think the show is the show. The book is the book. I think the book is better, but I think the show did a good job of making that love romance because it makes it even more heart-wrenching at the Red Wedding because of what they changed. So I personally don't think so, but I definitely don't blame people that do have that opinion. So, here's the thing. With Lady and Nymeria still being in King's Landing, I still don't know how much it would actually change, right? Like, direwolves are great, but if you have, 1,000 dudes with crossbows, a wolf isn't that useful. So, the only thing I could see that maybe is a change is, maybe Arya has Nymeria with her when they try to capture her. And so maybe she and Syrio actually like escape together. Then maybe she goes to Bravos that way. I think that's possible. But I don't know. Grease, Young Griff or Stannis? I like Stannis more personally. But yeah, personally I do. Who are your top 5 guaranteed survivors of Song of Ice and Fire? Bran, Sansa, Davos, Brienne, and Podrick. Ashley is in love with everyone from the sound of it. Hey, Ashley's just giving her love to everyone. But ever Magor's loyals. That's right, Cheeto. Love you. Love you. Ashley, do you you do need to make a new video. I'm still waiting. Agreed. Who do you think will be the first POV to die and wins? Ooh. Ooh. I'm gonna go with Aaron or Ario Hoda. I like that. That's my 2. That's my 2. You think that Tommen will die before Young Griff gets to King's Landing, and if so, who will take the throne? I think that he'll die simultaneously. Like Young Griff is gonna rock up, Sand Snakes are gonna kill him, and then it gets taken. Now, if that doesn't happen, let's say it happens before he gets there, it's gonna be Cersei that takes over. Predictions for Rickon. Rickon is going to be a wild child. He's going to cause a lot of issues for Davos and Skagos. But I think they're going to get out of there. But the issue is he's not fit to rule. So, I lost some breath there for a minute. He is more or less going to be used as like a puppet ruler, really. Like, I think there's going to be a group of people over him for a time, like Wyman Mannerly, John, Davos, some of the main lords in the area. But I think that he will probably live, I would assume. Maybe he dies in Dream of Spring during the war with the others. Not sure. I don't know. It's hard to predict Rickon because he's kind of a wild card, right? He's literally a wild kid. You know how I feel about flat booty Dario. Ashley, make a video about flat booty Dario. Do it. I got rid of the sex bot grease. I'm proud of you, Dakota. You got cookie points. In the rankings, you haven't really gone up because you're not past Larissa or Ashley currently, so you've gotten favor with me. You've curried favor. All sign. Hello, Gonza. Hello. It's always cool to see where you guys are, by the way. Where you're not specifically, I don't want your address, but like what part of the world you are. I always find that fascinating. Find it very fascinating that like I can talk to someone from Argentina. It's crazy. But hi, how are you? Trying to decide if it should be about Varys, exonerating the Hound, and Micah's murder, or a House of the Dragon video. I want a House of the Dragon video, Ashley. Adam, Alan, and Corliss. And when you make one, you tell me, because then I'll react to it on stream. We'll react to it on stream. No. Larissa. Hear me out. Do the Valerion video. Valerion. If Bran becomes king in the books, how will it be different from the show? I think it'll be a lot more sinister. Like, it seemed like kind of random in the show. I feel like it's going to be like Bran actually manipulating events, right? It's going to be him, kind of twisting things in the shadows, making things become his outcome. The way Bloodraven is kind of doing the main story, whether that's manipulating ghosts or certain things happen with Jon so he doesn't desert, or possibly the theory that he was warging the boar that kills Robert. Like, I think it'll be that situation. I think it'll be much more like antagonistic instead of how it is in the show where it's just very random. I agree, actually. I do think that's quite interesting because Dominic was of an age to marry. So why did he never marry? Or get betrothed? That's a good point. That's a really good point. I hope to see Loras alive and as an ally to Dany when she lands. Would like to see a split in the Tyrell camp. Some fighters for Aegon, others for Dany. It would be cool to see Loras some more. I don't know. I'm also like twisted, or not twisted. I'm also divided on that character as well. I kind of think, man, very suspicious in his death and its description, or like his dying and stuff like that. But I don't know. Make Star Wars content and burn it all like Cheeto. But the problem is, I don't like Star Wars anymore. Like, I've grown out of Star Wars. Like, I like the stuff from my childhood, and I like, you know, the originals and all that, but I just don't like Star Wars content. And I can't really force myself to try and make reviews where it's just me ranting every day. Like, don't even get me started on the Acolyte show. I haven't watched it, but just like, I just look at like reviews of it and I just see the plot points that they do, and I'm like, you're just so dumb. It's actually insane how moronic the people are that make these Star Wars content. Like, you can tell it's made by people that don't give a shit about it. Like, they just don't care. That's one thing at least to be thankful for with House of the Dragon is Ryan Condal, the team actually likes A Song of Ice and Fire. Like, the people that run Star Wars have no idea what Star Wars is. They don't care about it at all. And they don't care about you either. They, like, actually insult you as a fan base. So, all I'm going to say. We got to stop. We're going to go down a real big rabbit hole if we go down that way. Larys and Littlefinger are both chaos on legs and both did abuse and use a redhead girl/woman. That's fair. That's true. That's true. Larissa's spitting. My sword is yours to command, Grease? Of course, Ashley. If the day ever comes where Dakota has got to, you know, go, you know, you're going to be the one to do it. All right. Dakota has vouched. Oh, shit, I got to sign into chat. Hold on. That was anticlimactic. Hold on. Hold on. Here we go. Here we go. Ghost, you have been promoted to moderator. You got, which say that one. You have been made a moderator. Welcome to the Kingsguard. Dakota did vouch for you, so I allowed it. And also, Ghost, you're just an OG, so yeah, I was already okay with it anyway. But yeah. Yeah, just look at Greywind. Shit, I made myself sad again. Oh no. Haley, why are you depressed? What's going on? Talk to the people. I know I'm really delayed on chat right now, but you know. I'm not gonna say Barristan. I even forgot about Barristan. I want Barristan to live. I'm a Barristan believer. He's gonna live. He's gonna live for much longer. Okay. Stannis, you're sad about Stannis? Yeah. But hey, think about it this way, Haley. At least he goes out in a badass fashion, hopefully. Hopefully George does him justice. We get a nice, fitting ending for the character. And yes, it'll be sad. But you'll never have to look back in 20 years and go, hey, man, they really fucked up Stannis' ending. Did you see that in Season 5? Stannis is out here in the field. He's talking about his siege, and he's just like, ugh. That's a clippable moment. Somebody clip that. But yeah, hopefully we get a good conclusion to him. You can tell I've been watching too much Season 5. I made a big video coming out this week, and a lot of attention to Season 5, and boy, can you tell. Stannis will die fighting the others early on after winning the North. Agreed, Ghost, agreed. Do you think Ghost should be Lord Commander of John's... Wait. Do you think Ghost should be Lord Commander of John's... I do not, Casper, I do not. He will die by getting cut by the Iron Throne because he is not fit. He won't even get to the Iron Throne, Dakota. What are we talking about? I just had an idea. Grease, I know you don't play Elden Ring, but what if the Yellow Chaos Flame and the Lord of Frenzied Flame the parallel to the Night King? Cheeto, I don't even know what that means. I'm going to be completely honest. You lost me. I don't know what's going on. Dakota, Okay, very interesting where you took that. That's all I'm gonna say. Chicago, Walter. I was actually near. Oh, this is story time. Story time. Story time. I did this story also on the House of the Dragon stream we did Monday, but I want to tell it again because it's a story. So, since you live in Chicago, you probably know of the place known as Gary, Indiana. Okay, me, I didn't know it was as bad as it was. I thought it was just, it's not the best area, but I live around East St. Louis. East St. Louis is not a good area, right? I thought, it might be a little better than that, right? We got an Airbnb there. We're going to go to the Indiana Dunes, okay? Me and my friends. We show up to the Airbnb after driving 5 hours. Okay. We get there. Already I can tell we're in a real bad area, okay? We didn't look up the crime rate, none of that stuff. But oh my, it wasn't looking good. But we get to the Airbnb and I'm like, okay, it's fine, right? We're just staying here. It's not like we're hanging out. It's not like we're eating or hanging around in the area. Okay. So we get there, and apparently the cleaner didn't show up for the Airbnb. So me, who has arthritis, so driving in a car for 5 fucking hours is not a great time. We're just trying to relax. I was like, I'm gonna just relax and we're gonna call it a day. Well, cleaner didn't show up. So everything's a mess in this house. And I kid you not, my friends go into the bathroom. There is like shit pellets on the floor. Like a dog went in there and just like shit on the floor or something. There's like towels in there that are just stacked up because you're supposed to, stack the towels when you leave. They wiped shit on. I don't even know what's like. So already the trip is just completely screwed because we were supposed to sleep there and then till like Sunday night or like leave Monday morning. Now, we're like, okay, well, let's just wait for, my rest of my friends to get there. We're going to call up the Airbnb, get this figured out, and hopefully get a hotel or something for the night, whatever. Go to the McDonald's in Gary, Indiana. Boy, was that a mistake. Brothers in Christ. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to McDonald's. Just wait it out. McDonald's is a safe haven, right? You would think. So I'm going in the bathroom. I go to the bathroom, and this dude, like, comes in, and he's just, I don't know what the hell he's doing. If you go to a McDonald's bathroom, right, you know how there's the mirror, the sink, there's the urinal, right? So I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to do my thing, go in the urinal, do my thing, okay? And this guy is, like, at the mirror, like, checking himself out, but then he starts getting closer to me. So, like, it's like his shoulder is, like, where, like over here, like, right here, where like, the screen ends, okay? And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? Okay, so I'm like, okay, well, I can't pee now, dude. I can't. This dude's like basically staring at me now at this point. I can't do that. I can't do that. Okay, I gotta have concentration. Okay, so I go back out. Okay, and eventually I get to pee in peace. But now the McDonald's is fucked. So at this point, right? Okay, Gary, Indiana ain't the place. It's gonna take at least to like the next morning to get this Airbnb clean. So it's like at this point, vibes are pretty low. Okay? So we're not trying to find a hotel. We get out of the Gary area. We go to like, it's some place with a P. It's like 5 minutes from it. Walter, you probably know what I'm talking about. And so, yeah. And then we just start going to another McDonald's because I'm hungry and I need a safe haven. So we can start trying to figure out, the hotels in the area and seeing getting a night. We finally get a night, or we finally go to one of the hotels, and we got lucky that the lady that ran the place was like still there. She should have been like gone already, but yeah. So there were 6 people all in one hotel. Boy, that was something. Then we drove back the next day, 5 hours. So that was my vacation, quote unquote. We got our money back, which was good, but yeah. But there's only one good thing that came out of the trip. There's a song from like the 1950s about Gary, Indiana. It's kind of a bop. I can't lie. All right, let's get back to the chat now. I just wanted to do story time. Do you think Danny marries in Westeros? I don't think so. Kenshin, I don't see her marrying anybody else. No, Ashley, it's not happening. If they meet, it's going to be because Stannis is a white. He is the quote unquote Night King. He doesn't have any powers. He's just called the Night King because he's got his crown on and he's dead. So yeah. You think Ramsey will eliminate Roose? Roose is too smart. I hope not, Tomas. In the book, I like Roose way more than I like Ramsey. I think he's a better villain. So I hope, it's actually the opposite way around. I'd like to see that. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Why'd the chat go down so quickly? I'm trying to read things. Where am I at? I think we're like here. Okay. Dakota, it's a blue-eyed king with no shadow with a flaming sword. Something about that. Yes. I think that means Stannis is going to be a white when he meets her. Having no shadow seems like a white kind of thing. I'm just saying. Why do people in A Song of Ice and Fire fandom hate the Eyrie? It's my favorite cast in A Song of Ice and Fire, but people on Reddit always... I love the Eyrie. I think the Eyrie has a great design. I would love to know, like, why people think that. I don't know, personally. I love the castle. Maybe they don't like it because... run by the Aarons, or not the Aarons. Well, I guess it is the Aarons, but it's Lysa in the main story, and people just don't like Lysa. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Ooh, that is a good chapter. The Mel chapter in Dance is a good one, Larry. It's a good one. Oh my god, dude. I'm so far behind chat that I'm reading when Ghost got modded. Holy cow. Do you think they should have did the River Run siege in season 5 when Cersei gets arrested? Yeah, Jamie should not have been in Dorne, Joey. He should have definitely been doing stuff in the Riverlands. Agreed. You know what bleeding Kyber crystals is in Star Wars? I do not, Kirsty. Unfortunately, I do not. Barrison's toast grease and old night. Oh, shut up, Matthew. He's gonna live. He's gonna live. He's gonna live. Bye, Casper. I know you're already gone, but if you rewatch this, bye. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Oh, God. Walter, basically an abandoned city. Wear bulletproof clothes. People, Chicago is dangerous, but crime rate in East... Okay, Walter, you know what's crazy? Gary, Indiana has 1% higher crime. If you look up on a map a crime rate of where I was trying to stay, it is red. That is the worst... the whole area is red. That's all I gotta say. That's right. Tell him the oath. Tell him the oath. Yeah, Larissa, it was not a great time. Grease, you want to hold it for me? I should have said that. He probably would have obliged, though. That's the problem. Yeah, see, Fizzle, McDonald's is a safe haven usually, but the bathrooms are a different animal. Greece is almost a Gary, Indiana statistic. Yeah. Let's just say, could have easily died. All I'm saying is, because I also had my ring on. I had the one ring on that I have. I had my golden one ring, which isn't like, it's not that high quality or anything, but like, I have a ring on. I had my my chain with my cross on it. Boy, was I looking like a prime target to get robbed. That's all I'm saying. I was looking like a prime target. Aegon might be busy today, Ashley. He might be busy with another woman. That might be what's going on. I don't know. A question from my dad. Why is there no technical advancement from the dance to the main? Maybe. I actually don't know. That's a great question, Dakota. I really don't know. Probably because there is no normal story. if that was the case. But maybe you could chalk it up to the constant warring has kind of destroyed the infrastructure of Westeros and allowing it to develop as a society. Like, there haven't really been long peace in Westeros, and when there was, we did see technological advances in terms of roads, things like that. So maybe you could chalk it up to just like warfare being a huge issue. This stream is named as if you were the author. I am the author of the Dread. I am the author. I am George R. R. Martin. I look it, don't I? This is okay, right? This is George R. R. Martin in the future. He went into the future, which is why Winds of Winter is not written, because he has a clone. He went into the future, right? He changed his appearance. He was able to lose some weight. He then de-aged himself, Sent him back, and now I'm the author. Crazy. The problem solved. You don't have to hold it yourself. That's true. That's true. How do you get how different is Chicago from New Orleans? I don't know about New Orleans, but Chicago is a lot of crime. A lot of shootings, a lot of death, unfortunately. Where do you see Arya at the end of Wind's Grease? Will she make it back home? I don't think she'll be in Winterfell. I think she'll be probably around the neck area as well to meet up with Jon. I think a lot of our characters are going to meet around the neck. I just think, you know, like, I think around halfway through the story, she'll be kind of around the River Run area. And then I think as the story progresses, she'll get to Jon. As a person who's also from Chicago, crime is just out of the roof here. Yeah, I'm not in Chicago. I'm about 5 hours south of Chicago, but I hear about it a lot. My family is from Illinois. They all got the hell out of the greater Chicago area about 10 years ago. You know what's a shame? There are only like two, I think there's two Spinosaurus skeletons that have been put together in the world. One of them is in the middle of fucking Chicago. And you know why there's only two? Because I don't remember if it was World War I or World War II. But all I know is that there used to be Spinosaurus skeletons in Egypt, and somebody blew them up. I don't remember if it was the Axis or the Allies or the First World War. I don't know what was going on. Somebody bombed it, and that's a shame. That is a shame. Okay? I love my Spinosauruses. If I was ever going to get transported back to the dinosaur era, I'd let a Spino kill me. They're so cool looking. I'd just sit there and be like if I was in Jurassic Park 3 and I was like that kid that's named Eric in the movie, as soon as I saw the Spinosaurus, I'd be like, kill me. Like, it just looks so cool. It looks so cool. It was World War II? Okay, I thought so, random stuff, but I wasn't sure exactly. Oh yeah, risk going to Chicago to look at small. Hey, I didn't do it. I thought about doing it. Also, I don't like driving in cities. Like, I don't like driving in St. Louis. Now, you multiply that by like 2 or 3 times. Chicago is worse than driving in St. Louis by a lot. I also had like a girl I went to high school with that also went to Chicago. I also got sources, wasn't great. So, yeah, but I was in New Orleans just walking around being... Okay, well, this is where the story always starts wrong. I was in a big city walking around drunk. That's always where these... If you listen to any... I've been really liking listening to, like, catching serial killer stuff at night. And it's always the first part of it. You get drunk and you walk in a city. That's the easiest way you die. Whoa, you got called an effing white boy, Cheeto. Well, at least that's all you got called. At least that's all you got called. I once going to school had a woman roll down her window. I don't know why. I guess it was because she was driving slow, like really slow. Like it's a 55 and she was driving 50. And I was like, it was a 2-lane road, and so we were stopped at like a stoplight, and I was, you know, about to go around her more or less. And she like said something about fucking. She said, hold on, what'd she say again? She said white bitch or something like that, and then ran away, and then drove away. It was quite weird. Quite weird. We did drop a lot of bombs. And it was the Allies. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. I know there was a lot of bad things happening in World War II, but man, we really had to bomb Egypt. Come on, man. Come on, man. I also had a great uncle that was in I don't remember. He got shot and then he got taken out of there. He didn't die, but he like got transported out of the war. Don't remember what battle he was in though. Road rage incident. Yep. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. Random stuff. The world we could have been if those bones were saved. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That actually makes me want to cry. Sorry, Dakota. I'll keep it PG. I'm sorry. How do you think the mutineers at the wall will be dealt with? I think John's going to go on a bloody spree. That's all I'm going to say. It wasn't in Egypt. It was... Oh, okay. So, random stuff. Did they got all of the bones, though, from Egypt, right? Isn't it? Because that's where most of the Spinosaurus skeleton stuff that we have, it came from, like, the Egypt region. Came from Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Whoa. I didn't say that was the worst, Dakota, but... Have you seen the early reaction to episode 4? Hopefully it means that. Yeah, I mean, Manveer, I've talked to Voice of Old Town. I respect him a lot. He's watched all 4 episodes, and he said episode 4 is really good. It's not. He said it wasn't better than episode 2, but it definitely was good. So, what are the thing about Loris is Burns is false and part of a plan? Yeah, it definitely could be, right? Trying to get Loris, out of harm's way. Being a Kingsguard to Cersei, very bad. Maybe you lie to keep him out of it. There is a really big theory that I've wanted to make a video on, but it's the Tyrell conspiracy theory, where it's a lot of things where they're actually manipulating Cersei, and a lot of events kind of point to that stuff. But thank you, random stuff, on confirming that. My grandfather was in World War II and was in a concentration camp for a while, and we now have Nazi artifacts he was able to get. That is crazy. I think, like, World War II is just a crazy time because it basically, in a lot of ways, I know Vietnam and the Vietnam War is really George's inspiration for it, but you think about, like, just the pure loss of life. Like, everything that is in A Song of Ice and Fire, you can look at World War II, and there's just so many parallels. If you want to take a look at, like, propaganda, the way we see that in A Song of Ice and Fire, religion, the way news is spread. We just saw that in episode 2. Right? Episode 2, how do we use Jaehaerys' death to our advantage? Right? Controlling the way information is spread. I find all that very fascinating. Like, how do people, break down as an entire nation to then persecute another group, which is horrible. Like how does that happen? How does a whole public get manipulated to do that or to commit things like that? I think stuff like that is fascinating. Not like that, like, it's not good, of course, but it's interesting to study, like, psychologically how that got to that point. Speaking of nuclear bombs, in World War II, I'm from the town where the Hanford nuclear reactor is, i.e. the place that made the nuclear waste that went into the bombs. Actually, that's a pretty fun factoid. What characters of A Song of Ice and Fire would represent the different factions of the Allies and the Axis? Ooh, that's an interesting one. I really don't like. I would say, I guess the Lannisters would be Germany because they're kind of like the military might, but also kind of like the villains of the story. Starks would be like, I want to say the Starks would be like the British because they kind of get taken out of France early, so that could be seen as like them getting taken out of the war type thing, but then they come back and they're eventually going to end up on top. You could say that. The Riverlands is the French because everything happens in France. It would be America in that situation. I don't even know. Maybe the Reach, or the Tyrells, just because they don't really like get their hands dirty like as much. Not to say America didn't do all the fighting, but we didn't have any fights like happening in America outside of like Pearl Harbor. But maybe the Tyrells from America. I don't know. They're the one with the most resources and stuff like that. Yeah, I like that. Who would Japan be? Japan would be the Greyjoys. Perfect. Yeah, the Greyjoys attack the Starks. Yeah, it works out. Yeah. The Greyjoys of Japan. There you go. I didn't say who was Italy. Who would Italy be? I want to say Italy is kind of the Greyjoys actually as well, because the Greyjoys in Italy both were pretty ass at military stuff. I don't know. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that, and I hope you continue to enjoy them and all that. I gotta go back to chat. Here. Characters go into Saber's Force. You can bleed them, putting all your hatred inside, changing the Saber to the dark side when the red star bleeds, or how we. Oh, interesting, Chris. I had not heard of something like that. Um, that's pretty cool, Cheeto. Should Tom die? Would the Tyrells remain with the Lannisters? I don't think so. I think, Adam, that they could definitely be very neutral in this conflict and letting it kind of play out. That happened in America. It's not just taught. Yeah, it's just not. Agreed, Lulu. Right, like the control of information. Right. Think about everything that's being sent to America. Right. Even if I think it's even more interesting to look at it in World War One. Right. World War One, all the propaganda was about, okay, America wants to stay out of the war. Our public as a whole, America did not want to get into World War One. Right. Woodrow Wilson, when he ran for, I think it's his second term, he literally, his whole campaign process was, we're not going to get into the war, and then we got into the war. So it's interesting the way, like, propaganda, it's not just like Germany, right? It's Britain. You know, if you're thinking about propaganda in Britain, what is the newspapers, the radio telling you, right? Are they telling you everything that happens about these defeats? Are they trying to make it sound not as bad? Like, I totally agree, Lulu. House phrase, obviously the U.S. Don't know about that one, Chief. I don't know about that one. Is there any character portrayal you enjoy House of the Dragon because the show writing only makes them look extremely dumb and or unlikable? I'm not able to establish any pathos with this narrative. So, okay. Dave, I will say, in season 1, I really liked Viserys. I really liked Alicent up until episode, 9. I thought she was kind of all over the place in terms of writing purposes. I like the way Jace has been written so far. I like the way Bela has been written so far. Rhaenyra, they just need to dive into the character. They're taking baby steps with the character, and it's I don't know. I personally think that they need to get going with Rhaenyra. I mean, we're almost halfway through season 2, and she still is not changed that much from season 1. That's at all. There's a couple moments here and there where you're like, there's the fire of House Targaryen, right? There's, Rhaenyra having a little bit of that fire, and she just so far hasn't. And I've been kind of disappointed with what they've done with Rhaenyra up to here. Not to say she's bad. She's good, but she's not great. They haven't taken that next step. So I don't know. I think Otto Hightower, they've done a good job with his character in the show, but I don't know. America, Matthew, why would you say America is the Riverlands? Because America doesn't have any of the battle happening in their country, right? So France does. Majority of the war, if you're looking at Germany, happens in the France area. We'd be Golden Company. That's not a bad one, Razor. That's not a bad one. Italy, the phrase, maybe? Okay, that could make sense. Mats, that could make sense. Based upon the fact that, Italy did, flip-flop a lot, for instance, in, World War One. And then also they were, by the end of World War One, they were part of, was it called the Allies in World War One? I don't think it was called the Allies in the World War One. I know it was the Central Powers for Germany and the Austro-Hungarian alliance and all that. Or empire, I should say. But, yeah. What would Daenerys slash Fagon be? What do you mean by that, Matt? Switzerland is the Vale? You can get behind that. I agree, Cheeto. I agree. What's Fagon? It is basically the name for Aegon Targaryen, or the young Griff character in A Dance with Dragons, who people believe is not actually a Targaryen. He is a Blackfire, whatever you believe. Fair enough, Dakota. I could see that. I could see that. Oh, okay. Ashley, here's the issue, though. I wish we got more of Corlys and Rhaenys, right? I just feel like we haven't gotten enough with the character of Corlys, right? He's such a powerful presence when he's on screen, especially with Rhaenys, and we just get like maybe one scene of them every episode, if that. Like, I don't know. It's hard to like temper expectations, but season 2 to me has been quite disappointing. Like for the first 3 episodes, it's still good, right? It's still good, but I had higher expectations for season 2 based upon where we ended in season 1, and they haven't. And expectations definitely is a killer, right? Expectations will, it's double blade. It makes things harder to reach, but I don't know. I think Chorus has been one of the best adaptations of the show. I agree. Okay, I agree. Good job, guys, for in correcting me in history. I think the Dragon Seeds are being handled extremely well in the show. Yeah, I agree, Matthew. I think they've done better with that as well. What do you think is going to ride Sea Smoke? It's probably going to be Adam Balarian, or Adam of Hull for now, until he's later on. We need more Corliss and Rainey's and less Allison and Kristen Cole. And I agree. And this is another problem that I've seen so far. Ryan Connell and the writing team is just, they won't give up the main character, right? They're like, Allison's our main character of season 1. She needs to continue having a lot of screen time. She needs to be at the front of all these episodes. And it's like, no. Right? Her time of the story is not over, but it's kind of minimized. The same issue happened with Arya in season 5. She should have been a main character that took a step down. She should have been less and less involved. And then they just didn't do that. And so she became kind of contrived at times, or kind of boring and stale at times. So, I don't know.